Hi, I'm Jen from Tea Leaves and Tweed, and welcome to another sunrise tea session. This morning, I'm sharing a tea that has a bit of a fun story attached to it. Today, I'm going to be tasting the Lu Shan Yun Wu green tea of Jiangxi, which I got from YunnanSourcing.com. And I actually got this tea for free. I know that on this channel, I don't really review samples, but this tea actually has a bit of a fun story. It wasn't just a free sample thrown in with an order like my sample from beautiful Taiwan Tea Company. This came about because when I placed my first order from Yunnan Sourcing, I placed an order and then I decided I wanted more tea. So I emailed Scott at Yunnan Sourcing and asked, hey, I noticed my order hasn't shipped yet. If I place another order, could you combine them, just to combine the shipping materials to use less material? He said, absolutely. Place the order, let me know. So I placed the second order and I emailed him back, and he had to explain to me that the first time I ordered from YunnanSourcing.us, which is their US-based warehouse. The second time I ordered from YunnanSourcing.com, which is their China-based warehouse. So one of my orders was coming from the US, actually from Portland, and the other one was coming from China. So obviously the two orders couldn't be combined. He apologized. He offered me a discount on the shipping, but that seemed silly because I was the one who was foolish and not paying attention. And after a little bit of back and forth by email, he said, oh, I'll throw in something fun for you. And this Lu Shan Yun Wu green tea is actually the sample he threw in for me. And it's really fun because it's a totally different style of green tea that I've ever tried. It's from the Jiangxi region of China. Lu Shan refers to Lu Mountain, which is the mountain on which it's grown. There's a mosquito in front of my face. And Yun Wu, which is the name of the tea, means cloud mist. So it is the cloud mist tea of Lu Mountain. It sounds really lovely. And I'm going to share a couple of steepings with you this morning. So let's brew. So here I have my brewing setup for the morning. And the other reason to share this tea this morning is to show off my new beautiful gaiwan set, which is this porcelain gaiwan, which I also got from Yunnan Sourcing. And it is a slightly translucent style of porcelain so that it looks like white jade. And it comes with this coordinating cup, which is even more beautiful and milky and translucent. I just find them so gorgeous. And hopefully they'll look beautiful with the tea. So here we have 5 grams of our Lu Shan Yun Wu. It's kind of a spindly green tea leaf. It's very, very dark green for the most part. And the one thing I noticed when I opened the bag and was measuring out the tea is that the dry leaf had a very pronounced anise flavor, which was really interesting to me because anise is a note that I mostly get from young raw pu'ers. So this is a really exciting tea to try. So I'm going to give this a rinse. Already I can smell a pronounced vegetal aroma off this leaf just from the rinse water. And I'm going to brew this in short infusions. So my first infusion will be 10 seconds. My water is around 180 degrees, probably about between 170 and 180 degrees right now. I'm going to give that 10 seconds. And you can see the really, really light jade color of the infusion looks so beautiful in this teacup. I'm really excited about this tea set, if you can't tell. I can smell kind of a vegetable-y aroma coming off it even from this distance. You can see the leaves have taken on a bright green-yellow color, even just on that quick rinse and infusion. And they've started opening up a bit. So I'm really excited to give this a taste. So as usual, I'm going to start by smelling the lid of my gaiwan. Oh, I get fresh cut grass, fresh vegetables, fresh green vegetables. Not spinachy, more of a kale vegetable. A little bit of floralness, but I actually think red kale smells a bit floral, so that kind of goes along with the vegetable-y. The infusion has a little bit of that briny sea quality to it. Hopefully that's not just my water. Ooh, it's a very kind of round, juicy mouthfeel tea. It's got a very kind of lubricating texture to it. It doesn't have that dry, tannic feel to it. It doesn't dry your mouth out. It definitely moistens your mouth. This is a beautiful, this is what I would call a tea soup, because it has that almost savory, soupy quality to it. It tastes almost like I'm drinking a light vegetable broth. It has a slight umami characteristic to it, but the umami kind of immediately melts away into a sweetness. This is really beautiful. Thanks, Scott. I don't think I ever would have tried this tea on my own. Well, I've finished my cup of tea. I know I don't often show you myself finishing a cup of tea, but I've finished this one. So I think it's time for a second steeping. For our second steeping, I'm going to steep this for 15 seconds. And we'll see how it does for the second steeping. These short steepings don't really give me very much time to chatter at you. Maybe you prefer that. One really nice thing about this gaiwan, this is a very nice quality gaiwan, the edges don't get hot at all. I can pick this up and hold the lid with one finger without the edges getting kind of warm like some of my cheaper gaiwans. So I never feel the need to pick up the whole thing. So you can see the tea leaves are getting even brighter green and unrolling even more. I don't know that this will necessarily be, this is not necessarily a very large leaf tea, so these are not going to unroll into the giant leaves that you would get after steeping. I mean, something like an oolong that comes from older leaves, of course, will be very much bigger. But this is a very pretty tea once it's been steeped. The infusion has that same pale jade color. So let's give it a taste. Once again, I get a stronger hit of vegetal quality, like a spring breeze. This is a spring 2018 tea. And the weather this morning is a little bit reminiscent of spring. It had been quite warm over the past several weeks. It is August. But this week it started cooling down, and this morning it's only 64 degrees Fahrenheit with rather low humidity. A few bugs, but I remembered to put on bug repellent this morning. And it definitely feels a little bit more like spring than like fall, because people haven't started doing fall things like burning fires. The leaves haven't started changing, but it's a much more pleasant morning to sit outside and have a cup of tea. So here's our second steeping. Has a much fuller mouthfeel. It's the same notes that I hit. Oddly enough, I'm not getting that anise in the infusion. It was, I guess, just an artifact of what the dry leaf smells like. It was actually quite pleasant. So like I said, I never would have tried this tea on my own probably. And one of the things about Yunnan Sourcing, particularly YunnanSourcing.com, is that they have a huge stock of teas, and they have a huge variety of teas. And it can be very overwhelming. And I think one of my favorite parts about the company is that I know how friendly and communicative Scott is when responding to email. And so I love that I feel like if I wanted to, I could always ask him for advice. And he also has his own YouTube channel, which I'll probably link below, where he does YouTube tasting sessions as well. His tasting sessions are a little bit more involved than mine. He's often joined by his wife and his dog, who is adorable. I haven't decided to let our cat join the tea sessions yet. So I love that he has this sense of friendliness and community, and that attracts me in turn to his website to patronize his business. So now that I've finished my second cup, I'm going to make a third cup of tea, and we'll see how that goes. Now, because I'm definitely still getting flavor out of this tea, I'm going to give my third steeping 20 seconds, so that's 5 seconds more than the last steeping. And that's kind of a very classic Chinese style of brewing, where you start with a very, very short infusion and you increase it just a little bit each time while you're still getting flavor out of the tea. And then once you notice that the flavor is starting to die down a bit, you can increase your steeping time and see if you still get flavor out of the tea. And for these kind of small leaf, slightly delicate green teas, I really like this method. I particularly like it with Chinese green teas, because I do find that some Chinese green teas get very strong very fast. And when I drink very strong Chinese green tea, it sometimes upsets my stomach. And for that reason, I actually, for a long time, vastly preferred Japanese green teas, because I found they didn't make me as sick. But simply learning better techniques for brewing my Chinese green tea actually really helped that. So you can see our leaves have started unrolling even more. Beautiful bright green color. This would have been a lovely tea to drink in spring. Same beautiful jade infusion. So let's have our last cup of tea. Oh, this third steeping has an even stronger flavor. I'm getting a little bit of astringency, but I think tea should have a little bit of astringency to it, a tiny bit of bitterness, but a pleasant tea bitterness. It's starting to taste a little bit like a dragon well tea, which makes sense. This is lovely. I think this tea still has so much more to give. So the technique of adding 5 seconds while you're still getting flavor out of the tea is definitely working here. I might even try an infusion where I don't add any time for the next one. But that's the nice part about Gong Fu style brewing, is that you really can play with your parameters. I like to tell people, so sometimes on Reddit, we get people who write in and they're asking about, oh, what did I do wrong? My tea doesn't taste good. What did I do wrong? And if they're using quality tea and they're starting from a reasonable place in terms of amount of leaf versus volume of water, and they're using the right temperature of water, really the answer is, it's time for you to play. Brewing instructions aren't set in stone. I like to say brewing instructions are kind of like the pirate code. They're really more like guidelines. And within those guidelines, you can play. And I'll actually link a post that I did a couple of years ago about how I tweak brewing parameters based on different problems with tea. But you can always use a little more water, use a little less water, use a little more leaf, use a little less leaf, use hotter or cooler water, or steep it for more or less time, and get the infusion that you enjoy. So, of course, I do like to follow instructions the first time I taste a tea, because it gives me an idea of where I'm starting from. And it gives me maybe an idea of what the tea is intended to taste like. But from there, tea is meant to be enjoyed. So make your tea so you enjoy it. And I think that would be my philosophy of tea. So now that I've pretty much finished up a third cup of tea with you, I will let you go. Thank you for joining me this morning for this Lu Shan Yun Wu tea of Jiangxi from Yunnan Sourcing. I hope I see you again. Thanks. Bye.